Hello and welcome to the 49ers First and 10 podcast presented by Cisco. 10 minutes of the most up-to-date 49ers news first thing in the morning. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, and joining me is 49ers team reporter Lindsay Polares. It's been a lovely weekend for the 49ers. The team defeated the Seahawks in Seattle on Thursday night to take and share the lead in the NFC West, then had some much-needed rest and a mini bye this weekend. Lindsay, just how important was this win, and what was the mood like after Thursday night's game?
All-time high in terms of vibes. It was a very, very cheerful Thursday night football win, and it's just starting to feel like a new tradition that the 49ers go to Lumen Field for Thursday night football. It's now 3 years in a row during my time with the 49ers. It's been really great. And including the playoffs, the 49ers extended their win streak over Seattle to 6 straight games. Brock Purdy has never lost to the Seahawks. So just a couple of cool win streaks that definitely got a little bit longer because of Thursday's results. But more importantly, this was a really important win for the Niners because it is their first win in the division. As of right now, Seattle has not played an NFC West team. So the 49ers are sitting on top of the NFC West standings at 3-3 on the year. Obviously, super early in the season, but it was very, very important to make sure that they got a win column in terms of division wins because, as we all know, that is probably the most important thing in determining your postseason fate. And again, super early, so we don't know how the season's going to pan out for everyone in the NFC West, but setting yourself up for success and making sure your destiny's in your own hands is so key instead of waiting for how everyone else's season pans out to see if you're going to get the green light to go to the playoffs later on in the year.
Definitely, and there were plenty of highlights from Thursday night's game, but I feel we also learned a lot from that game against the Seahawks. After the contest, quarterback Brock Purdy said that the team is closer to finding their identity. Lindsay, what were some of your biggest takeaways from the team's latest win?
I think there's a lot to be proud of, especially in this one. I think I immediately want to go to this 49ers running back core that has just continued to produce effective runners. Christian McCaffrey never got to play a game this season, or Christian McCaffrey has not played a game yet this season, and Jordan Mason entered Thursday's contest as the NFL's second leading rusher. That obviously is a huge props to the offensive line. Also, just a huge props to the 49ers running back core that can continue to produce these runners that are physical, break tackles, and continue to lead the 49ers ground game. And then we saw and have since been updated that Jordan Mason suffered an AC joint sprain, and he really only played one snap in that second half. So it was up to Patrick Taylor Jr. and Isaac Guerrero, both who were big role players in this game. I think that's one of the big takeaways. And then as I was writing my stats and facts article this morning, I think it's important to highlight a really cool milestone for Deebo Samuel Sr., who now has 20 receiving touchdowns and 20 rushing touchdowns in his career. And he's the first NFL wide receiver to accomplish such a feat. So I think that was huge. Nick Bosa had 14 pressures on the night, no sacks, but he was affecting Geno Smith all night. And then you talk about the secondary, who had two rookies really step up, in Malik Mustafa and also Renardo Green, especially with Charvarius Ward out and Talanoa Hufanga out. So important. Each of them got their first career interceptions. So much to be proud of in that game. And it really, like you said, and like Brock Purdy echoed, is that this team is building its identity. They are finding their way back to that like championship caliber 49ers standard of play.
The Niners know how to do the run game. Head coach Kyle Shanahan mentioned that although Nick Bosa wasn't able to get on that stat sheet in terms of sacks, that he had a huge influence on the game. And again, the rookies shined in week 6. Malik Mustafa and Renardo Green both recorded first career interceptions. Isaac Guerrero had that huge run late in the fourth quarter to help seal the game. Dominic Pooney has been a force and productive since day one. Lindsay, tell me what you like about this rookie class so far.
I think we always hear President of Football Operations and General Manager John Lynch say that when they draft players, they want them to be ready, in theory, to play on day one. The 49ers have a great history of drafting and developing players, and there's just so much star power that it's often that rookies don't have to take this huge role right out of the gates. But in a year like this, when there are a lot of bumps and bruises early in the year and players going down and, sudden injuries that happen in the middle of a game, the rookies have very much stepped up, and you saw four really big contributors in this game. Like you mentioned, Dominic Pooney has been starting at right guard since week one of the regular season. And then you see Malik Mustafa get his second start and first career interception, Renardo Green, first career interception, and then Isaac Grendo ripped off 76 yards to set up the 49ers final touchdown of the game and really just put this game completely out of reach for the Seahawks. So I think you're just seeing this really nice build early of these rookie careers. We love to see it. As the 49ers continue to get healthy, they are going to need those contributions from these rookie players that have really set themselves up for success, right? Like, you aren't ready to contribute in this way if you aren't applied to film study and making sure you're doing everything right so early in your career. So it is no small feat to see this type of production from this draft class.
Yeah, and speaking of the 2024 rookie class, head coach Kyle Shanahan did share some news on first round draft pick wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. Lindsay, would you like to share what Shanahan announced?
Yes, this is a pretty important update. Wide receiver Ricky Pearsall is set to have his practice window opened this week. It's likely that we'll see him in practice on Monday, later today. Not necessarily, that doesn't mean he's going to play against the Chiefs. These practice windows, especially when you start on NFI or injured reserve, Ricky Pearsall started the year off on NFI. The practice window is 21 days, and head coach Kyle Shanahan did say that he expects probably a longer ramp up period for Ricky Pearsall. So I wouldn't bank on seeing him play Sunday, but I think reintegrating him back into practice is going to be just a huge next step in his recovery process after his gunshot wound that occurred during Labor Day weekend.
Huge update on Ricky Pearsall. And Lindsay, what are some of the team's latest injury updates as we enter a new week and before we play the Chiefs this Sunday?
Yeah, like we mentioned, injury bug continues to hit the 49ers. I think there's more positive news than bad news, actually. Safety Malik Mustafa did exit the game with a lower ankle sprain. He is going to be day-to-day. Kicker Matthew Wright suffered a dislocated shoulder, so it's likely we're going to hear more on him. We were awaiting some MRI results to see what his availability for this week is. The 49ers, obviously, if he can't play this week, are going to be in need of a kicker. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, running back Jordan Mason suffered an AC shoulder sprain, also day-to-day. And then some other lingering injuries. Defensive lineman Jordan Elliott is continuing to rehab a knee injury. He's going to be evaluated earlier in the week. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles was dealing with a calf injury all of last week. The hope is that he'll be back in practice starting today. The 49ers have a bonus practice because of the Thursday night game. And then cornerback Charvarius Ward, also day-to-day with a knee. He ended up being a game-time decision on Thursday. And then kicker Jake Moody, not expected to be back for at least a few more weeks because he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. So really no surprises there.
All right, Lindsay, thanks for those updates. But that will do it for today's episode. Subscribe to First and 10 presented by Cisco for more 49ers updates and turn on the notifications for any breaking news, Move the Chains episodes. Faithful, thanks for tuning in.